Antonio Franco Coronel was born in Mexico City in 1817. He moved to Los Angeles at the age of 17 with his father Ignacio, who was a former officer in the Mexican Army. Antonio would also go on to serve in the Mexican Army and would fight the United States in the Mexican-American War. On the heels of Mexico's defeat came the news that gold had been found in Northern California. This news sparked Antonio's imagination, and he would soon become one of the early miners to arrive at the scene. He brought with him about 30 people, which included some Native American servants to help with the digging. Within the first 3 days of their labor, over $2,000 was pulled from the earth. Coronel and his men continued to have success during the 1848 season and on into the next year. In the early days of the rush, people of all nationalities worked side by side without much trouble or disagreement. The gold was in abundance and easy enough for all to find. Coronel's success in the gold rush was stunted when his claim was invaded by armed Americans threatening to kill him and his workers if they did not surrender it to them. This was an ever-increasing act, Americans intimidating and threatening those that they deemed foreigners who were mining claims that they believed by all rights belonged to them. Coronel wisely chose to give up his claim, thus ending his tenure as a gold prospector. The source of the antipathy towards Mexicans was that the majority of them were Sonorans, men of expertise in gold mining, and consequently, they quickly attained the best results. Although his success in the California gold rush was short-lived, this was only the beginning of the success that Coronel would enjoy during his lifetime. He goes on to become the mayor of Los Angeles, a city councilman, and the state's treasurer. His story is atypical of the Argonaut working on the mines, inasmuch as he found success quickly and he was able to cease before the greed and the harsh lifestyles overtook him. Many more found no luck in life and no luck in the California ground. Hyram Pierce was one such man. Hyram and Sarah Pierce were living in Troy, New York, when word of the riches being found in California reached them. It did not take long for this blacksmith and father of 7 to fall ill with gold fever. In March of 1849, Hyram set off for California by way of Panama. His poor health did not stop him from seeking out an easier and quicker way to better his family's situation. He endured the long and treacherous walk across the Isthmus of Panama, passing dead mules along the way, and by sheer luck avoided the diseases such as yellow fever and malaria that dwelled in the jungles all around him. Hyram made his way finally to San Francisco. Prices for goods were exorbitantly high, but Hyram was at a loss and had no choice but to accept the costs of doing business in the mines. It had not taken long for the landscape to dramatically change. Gone are those early days of the gold rush, where miners of many creeds and colors effortlessly worked side by side and pulled riches from the ground. It had already transformed into a cold, calculating business that preyed upon the hopes and fragile dreams of those men who succumbed to a very different kind of yellow fever. Sarah Pierce was forced to become the head of the household in Hyram's absence. She had 7 mouths to feed and had to become quite resourceful in order to do it. She rented out their blacksmith shop, called in debts that were owed to Hyram, and borrowed money from relatives. Sarah Pierce's experience was not unique among women who stayed east in the gold rush. In the void that was left behind when the men of the house left to try their chances at riches, wives and mothers stepped in to take on all of the household duties, in addition to the heavy burdens that they already carried. Many women did this not knowing when their husbands would return home to them, or if the journey and the heartache would reap any financial rewards. Hyram's time in the mines earned him nothing more than a homesick heart and a gaunt face brought on by malnutrition. Upon his return to New York over a year later, his physical appearance had changed so much that friends had trouble recognizing him. Hyram Pierce returned to blacksmithing, but he never stopped talking about returning to the mines. He died before he could ever renew his dream of returning to the West. His stories and his dreams enchanted some of his children, and after his passing in 1866, they too ventured westward to make their lives in California. Though the majority of the wives, sisters, and daughters of the men during the age of the gold rush stayed behind on the home front, not every woman's story was like Sarah Pierce's. Women were in fact there in the mines from the very start. Many of the first to break soil and begin the hunt for gold were those who already lived in California, and entire families would go out into the gold fields to mine together. The native peoples of California would be sifting gold through woven baskets, and women played a major role in that effort. As the deluge of people from all over the world rushed into San Francisco Bay and beyond, the ratio of men to women in San Francisco and the surrounding mines quickly becomes at least 10-1. This ever-growing disparity creates a male-dominated society. Men would go weeks, even months, without even the sight of the opposite sex. This one-sided way of living and the long, exhausting hours of toiling out in the rivers and the mountains soon causes many of the men to crave the company of the fairer sex. Miners would pay top dollars for almost any good or service that was made by a woman's hand. A woman waiting tables or mending clothing could be making a better wage than the average miner. After all, the majority of the 49ers relied on speculation and pure luck to make money, while these simple jobs that women held were in high demand, and there was an ever-growing number of men to call upon these services. As the transportation routes became more consistent, more women came west. Husbands who decided to make California their new home sent for their wives. New relationships were conceived via letter and proposals made from across the continent. These women would often be married almost immediately upon landing in the San Francisco Bay. Single women also made the journey westward, and many did not have sufficient funds to afford the cost of the trip, so they signed on with brothels, saloons, and the like. Their passage would be paid for in full by their new employer. In exchange for this payment, these girls agreed to a contract to work for the establishment for a set period of time. A home-cooked meal or a darned sock was not the only product or service that saw a spike in price and demand in the wide-open land of chance and opportunity that was California. Men sought the company of women, and they often sought more than just casual conversation.
Nearly all these women at home were streetwalkers of the cheapest sort, but out here for only a few minutes. They asked 100 times as much as they were used to getting in Paris. Albert Bernard.
The sex trade was not exempt from the inflation in prices that was prevalent in almost all goods and services during the period of the gold rush. The prices that men paid for tools, meals, rooms to rent were high even by today's standards, with the same being true of the world's oldest profession. Once again, we see more consistent money being made not in the mines, but coming out of the pocketbooks of those who dig.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, Please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.